All right. How is it going, everybody? It is March 23rd. Welcome to Concept Sketching 2702. This is week 2 of virtual class. I have to let you guys know, quick story time before we dive in. I just recorded probably like 15 to 20 minutes of this lesson and lecture, and then found out that my iPad wasn't even recording. So this is take 2. Okay, so now that I've got that off my chest, let's jump in. So even though I sent out that email last week or earlier, whenever, about the new class process, I wanted to go over it again here just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, because it obviously is a big shift. Then we're going to do a quick orthographic challenge. Hopefully you guys like those. I think they're pretty fun, great learning opportunity. Also good, just opportunity to practice your sketching every day. Blah, 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 blah. Then I'm going to reiterate that you submit assignment 4 kitchen appliance in your Google Drive folder. My mistake. And then after that, we're going to introduce the next assignment, which is assignment 5, the handle project, Then we're going to wrap up with a lecture on perspective, and then compositions with multiple perspectives. And then to wrap up, I'll do a really, really quick demo. So let's dive in. Okay, the new class process. So first and foremost, we're going to be sending you guys these lectures through YouTube. Hopefully, most if not all of you watched the YouTube video from last week and followed along. I would like you to continue doing that. Again, we're still flexible, we're still learning, we're still adjusting and transitioning to this new format, this new style of teaching. So if you guys have critique or you have an idea on what would be better than YouTube, please let us know. And we'll definitely noodle on it for a little bit, because we are trying to do what's best for you guys and how we can teach everybody and learn the best. Just reiterating, I'm going to be sending those via email and then posting them on Canvas. Then I need you guys to scan your drawings using any app that you find. There's 2 good ones that we've found so far, Genius and Adobe Scan. Please try and put all of your artwork into one PDF file if possible. That would be super helpful. So you guys will be submitting, however many pages or whatever. Please try and get them into one file. If you can't figure it out, definitely Google it. In Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat, you can absolutely combine PDF files into one file. So check that out if you do get stumped. If not, phone a friend, Google, whatever. And then you'll be uploading that PDF into the Google Drive folder that we created for you guys. You should have gotten an invitation to that. And then you'll be uploading your artwork into there. Ellie and I will be downloading your artwork, making our critiques, using our tools and resources to add our comments, feedback, and then your grade as well. And then we will re-upload a new document. So you'll have your original, and then you'll have the edited version as well. So just check back in later with in that folder for more content to appear. Okay, so let's move on. Here is your orthographic challenge for today. This should be a nice transition, a nice little toe dip into the handle project. The only thing that I would ask that's different about this one than what you would do normally when you consider line weight and surface contour lines and drop shadows is to just add additional surface contour lines and try and place it somewhere meaningful. So I'm not going to sit around and wait for 6 minutes. I'm basically going to expect you to just pause and then time yourself. The goal is to hit 6 minutes. So you might be asking, okay, why do we always do these timed things, especially now that we're doing virtual class? It's because you guys should be drawing at a certain speed. If it takes you more than, let's say, 10 minutes to do this perspective drawing, you probably aren't drawing fast enough. And that's a good indicator or something to keep in your mind as you move forward drawing and learn to draw, because you want to be really conscientious of how much time you're taking. Quick, quick sketches, especially during ideation, is going to yield you really good results when you're trying to problem solve. And so that's why we're trying to keep the pressure on in terms of drawing. So pause, attempt this, and then unpause. So if I had if I was a YouTuber, I'd put some cool stuff in here where it'd be like, oh yeah, maybe some elevator music, because that's really cheesy. But I don't, so we're winging it. This is essentially what your sketch, your object should look like. Hopefully there was an interesting little challenge in creating that sort of elbow bit between the two cylinders. I added my surface contour lines kind of in that spot, right where those two things transition. So you see this extra one right about there. I thought that was like a meaningful spot to show how that curvature works and how that complex surface exists. If you were sending this sketch off to someone for this to be made in real life, that could be important information from them. So if your sketch doesn't look like this, maybe you put it in a different orientation, you set it up on its side, that's fine. But from a construction standpoint, it should look very similar to this. So if you did something wrong, if something doesn't look quite right, try and figure out what that was. And then if you really want to push yourself, try it again and fix it. But definitely just try and keep in mind what went wrong in your thought process, so you can keep that in mind for the next time. All right, moving along. It's time to introduce assignment 5, the handle object. So just like your previous assignment, it's going to be 3 pages. You have 2 weeks to complete it, so it's due Monday, April 6th. And I just wanted to reiterate one more time, please try and put your images into one PDF file if possible. In a worst case scenario, if you really can't figure it out, Ellie and I can help, but please do your best. And then I said put all 3 images. 3 is the minimum. You can submit more pages if you'd like. That's totally fine. A lot of you have done that. There's no problem with that whatsoever, but 3 is the minimum. So we're gonna jump over to the actual assignment. Okay. So once again, due April 6th. There's not a lot, again, here that you guys are is gonna be new. A lot of the same stuff that we're just going to continue practicing. So you're going to be sketching a household item that has an organic handle that is ergonomic. So these some examples would be like a handheld vacuum, hair dryer, hand mixer, drill, hand sander, etc. Anything that's specifically designed to be held. But again, is more complicated than just a cylinder. Because again, we want you to challenge yourself. So page 1 will be an existing product in perspective. Page 2 will be a new design for that same object. So let's say you drew a drill on the first page, you're going to be designing a drill as well. Or if you choose to design a drill, make sure you draw an existing drill or whatever product on page 1. Hopefully that made sense. On page 2, you need 2 perspective views. So this is really exciting because we're really going to play with composition and communicating a lot of information. Page 3 will be your ideation page. You guys have already started playing with this quite a bit, so you should really kind of know what's going on here. Okay. This is super important on avoiding simplistic objects. You guys should always be challenging yourself. These assignments are supposed to be, increasingly difficult. So again, these things like toothbrushes, spatulas, potspans, those are too easy. You guys can handle more, and you should want to push yourself to learn more and faster by doing something more difficult. A lot of these things, utilizing the skills and lessons, you guys should not see anything new here. Quick concepts in during ideation through iteration. Simple forms, so don't do something as simple as a cylinder, but don't go nuts either and try and make a spiral or something like that's really, really tough. Convey the most information that you possibly can. Line weights, you guys have seen that feedback before. Surface contour lines, leading edge lines, etc. Section and tangent lines, that's really similar to like surface contour lines. Complex forms, double curved surfaces, we've talked about that in depth. Material callouts, transparency, we'll talk about a little later in a future demo. Part material thickness, details, form, blah, blah, blah. Composition is super important. Planning, that's what we're going to focus on today during the lecture and the demo. Print to call out stuff, simple shadows, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then, during ideation, don't make it a nice, like, sexy sketch. Just make it, like, quick and, like, a just for thought kind of deal. It can be super sloppy. That's fine. We want to see your developmental work and your thought process, your problem solving, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, like I just said, challenge yourself. We want to see you do something better than you did before. This is assignment 5 out of 7, so we're really getting close to the end at this point. You can submit extra pages, you'll be graded. Ignore that old date. Absence, that's convenient. Not going to worry about those anymore. You're already going to be documenting blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So again, feel free to reach out for questions if you have them. There really shouldn't really be anything novel here for you guys or anything alarming. You guys can absolutely handle this. Let's jump back over to the presentation. Okay. Moving along. We're going to go now into the lecture. We're going to be talking about additional perspectives and compositions with multiple perspectives. So, up until now in the class, we've been using 2 vanishing points that rest on the horizon line and vertical lines for the remainder of our construction lines. Now, the reason that they're vertical is because they're basically parallel, but that's because they're really actually going to a third vanishing point that's infinitely far away. So we've never addressed it or communicated that before, because we've always just talked about them as vertical lines, but truly they actually do go to a third vanishing point that is just infinitely far away, which is why they appear parallel. So now we're going to tell you about what happens when you choose to move that third vanishing point. This is called 3-point perspective, and basically you just change those vertical construction lines to no longer being parallel. And that's because your third vanishing point 3, is now less than infinitely far away. So you define how far away it is. Now, one thing that's important to keep in mind is that you are not required to use this 3-point perspective. It's something that we wanted to show you for like various reasons. But again, it's not necessary, it's not required, it's not in the like grading requirements. Generally, 3-point perspective like this is very dramatic. It's like it makes objects like very, very just big and almost like overwhelming feeling. A lot of like urban photography feel or like is 3-point perspective. So when you see like tall buildings that go up into the sky and they feel like they disappear into a point in the sky, architecture uses 3-point perspective, I believe. But it's good to know because sometimes you might want like a super dramatic product design rendering or sketch render, hand render, whatever, to feel like more intense. I think like shoes is another place where people might like to use 3-point perspective because shoes are so like hypeable, so dramatic, so like big, style, fashion focused. So that's something that we could even explore later. So this was just something that we wanted to show you guys. But again, not required, just something to be aware of. And then like down the road, if you were to explore more like fine arts, kind of like drawing style, you would even explore the other perspectives that are even more complicated that move towards like a fisheye kind of thing. So just something to keep in mind and know that there isn't only 2-point perspective. So what does 3-point perspective kind of look like in action? So here are some rough sketches of, like, let's say maybe a watch, or like the beginnings of a watch sketch, or like a vacuum cleaner. You can see on the right, the vacuum cleaner is kind of like the vanishing point, the third vanishing point is above the horizon line and is fairly close, whereas like the third vanishing point on the left for the watch sketch is a little bit further away. So it's a little bit more of a gentle 3-point perspective, but you can still tell how those lines that we normally would draw as vertical are now not, and just add a little bit more like intensity, drama, action to the shot. And again, especially with the vacuum cleaner on the right, like it's like really crazy. It almost feels like, I don't know, like if you're having a nightmare, like I imagine this is what a vacuum cleaner would look like. It'd be like 100 feet tall or something. Random, but whatever. So if you guys want to explore 3-point perspective, you're totally welcome to. Definitely practice it a few times before you try and use it on like your final perspective drawing. Would definitely want you to like practice that a bit first, because it's definitely a challenge. Okay. So now let's jump into like product presentations that have more than one object at different perspectives on them. So I know these aren't sketches; these are like photos or renderings. But look at these in the lens of the presentation, like how they're arranged, the composition. So these, none of these objects use the same like horizon line and vanishing points. If you were to sketch them, you'd have to use like different points and everything, different reference points and structure. So I thought these would be a good example for you guys to see, because in assignment 5, the handle object project, you're going to be needing to use 2 perspective sketches on 1 page, and I think it's going to be really valuable to be able to explore them in different perspectives. And then I also threw on this page for reference some of the qualities of layout and composition that we talked about earlier in the semester. So looking at this first image, there's like a lot of white space in this image, and with the fact that all these objects are floating in the way that they are, feels very whimsical. It's kind of fun, and they're also very soft objects in general, so it plays really, really well. In this second image, I don't even know what these are, to be perfectly honest. Like, this could be like a home speaker or a banjo. Like, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a radio. That little bit looks like it slides, maybe. But anyways, just the proximity adds a lot of like tension and kind of excitement. There's a lot of energy with the level of like overlapping, and that's kind of cool. So maybe if this really is like a music playing device, that adds a lot of like nice context and feeling, because if you're playing music, it's a very energetic, or at least can be a very energetic activity. So it like ties in really well with that intention of the object. And then of course it has repetition. The fact that there's multiple in different colors is fun. This composition of these headphones is also really nice. I wish that the bottom headphone was kind of tilted at an angle where we could see the underside. I think that would add a little bit more information, or maybe even the top view too, because at the top, this one up here at the top, we see a lot of the information, but don't see a lot what's going on the top. So that's something to consider. But they're using white space really, really nicely. Let's look at a few more examples. Again, this could be a hairdryer, could be a speaker, not exactly sure, but they're using proximity really well with some gentle light overlap. That's really nice. They're also filling this composition, the whole like gray bounding box, really, really well. This second image is really nice. This is a product rendering. found on Render Weekly's Instagram. I think I recommended them at the beginning of the semester. They've got a lot of tasteful imagery, so I still recommend you guys checking them out. A lot of good inspiration there too if you're stuck trying to figure out your composition. They're using some super tasteful alignment. The way that these headphones are definitely like at a different distance from us as the audience, but they're like so close to touching. Like it's really tasteful. And then lastly, I don't know what these are either, to be honest, but the contrasting color is super fun. And I know like we're not using color, but just something to keep in mind in the future. And then like just again, that like really subtle proximity where there's a slight overlap just makes them feel so like connected and nice. Really good way to display objects. So keep this kind of stuff in mind as you're planning your pages out in your compositions. To kind of go into further detail and be a little bit more direct with you guys on your compositions thus far, I tried to show here how to improve the compositions you guys have already shown us. So on the left, looking at this single object presentation, this like cube is rather small, and then the orthographics are also rather small and really tight to the corner. And then if these like lines in this area were to represent like a title or the name of your object or the purpose of what it is, it's kind of free floating. These callouts are a little bit like random feeling as well. So I would say this is a situation where there's a lot of improvement. And what I would like to see you guys move forward with is just filling the page better. So this cube, the object, takes up more space. The orthographics also take up more space. And like you can see how there's like definitely a relationship between the edge of the orthographics and the edge of the page compared to what space there is between the area around the object, the perspective cube. And so like I tried to fill the page, fill the composition over here with the callouts and the title and making sure that everything kind of feels like it has an intentional place, as opposed to letting too much white space make your sketch feel small or your product presentation not be meaningful or impactful enough. So with this, the bottom example uses objects where there's, or a presentation where there's two perspective objects. In the left, the don't example, we don't have any overlap, we don't have good proximity. The callouts feel a little misplaced or tight or like squeezed into a narrow space. And if you were to have right here like a title or a name of your object, it just feels kind of unintentionally placed, like shoved into a corner. Whereas over here, how you can improve that, just let your callouts have the breathing room that they want. Try and include some of that stuff that we talked about before in terms of composition, proximity, contrast, pattern, like those sort of things. And then again, like let everything have its place. Let everything rest in the most meaningful way that it possibly can. And so again, like the reason that this is really important is because if you were to apply, like let's say in the future you come up with some sort of product idea or service concept or something, and you're trying to communicate it to other people, these like nuanced details about composition start to really like push into the territory of storytelling and having like an impactful emotional resonance with your audience. If you like, I don't know, this is a terrible example because we're just looking at rectangular prisms, but like even if it was something like, I have this idea for a new cereal, if you were to use this left like composition to describe your new cereal concept, it probably would not resonate or leave an impactful impression with your audience, who might be investors, right? Or like marketing people, I don't know. It is really important to know how to layout, and tell the story of a product concept. So hopefully these little things help you. There's a good chance that you saw critique on your previous assignments that talked about composition. Hopefully these sketches here give you an idea of what you can do to improve. Sweet. All right, and then we're powering right through. Lastly, we're going to go into a quick demo about potential compositions for a hand mixer. So we're going to be using an 11:17, this ratio, because that's what the paper that you guys should be using. And we are going to, so actually, let's do this real quick. Let's make sure I have a good idea of what a hand mixer looks like. So I'm just going to do a really rough. Probably something kind of like this. There's probably like a button or a slider thing right there. And I think they sometimes have vents too. And you've got the okay, something kind of like that. And then it probably has a cord. I think sometimes they come out of there. That was rough. Okay, I like something kind of like that. And then maybe from a different perspective, how about vents, and then that button might have a little doodad there. Got a parting line. And then have a little cord. Okay, cool. So I think that's a really, this is like thumbnail quality. Like this would be maybe something that would, that we could see on your guys's ideation sketches. Something kind of like this general like quality. Even less would be like totally acceptable. Excuse me. Okay, let's jump back here. So let's say you're drawing your hand mixer. Okay, so we're going to be using a landscape layout. Now let's say this composition only requires 2 perspective sketches and not any orthographics. So I'd say like a natural position that you might expect to use a hand mixer might be something like, oops, let's go here. There we go. We got a button. Our fence are kind of over there. Got a parting line right here. That's where the thing comes in. Okay, and then we've got our doodads there. Something like that. Okay, so that seems like, and then this is going to come out here somewhere, but let's wait to put that cord in for a bit, because that seems like something to figure out. Okay, so I would say, like, if you were to imagine, you know, there to be like a hand, let's see how that goes. That's pretty rough, but you know, a hand could go like that, and I feel like that would, this feels kind of like a natural position, almost like what you would personally see it from like a first person point of view, and then your bowl, you know, is like right there, or whatever. So in this perspective, we're seeing the top and kind of the side. So top and kind of the side. So we're not seeing the bottom. So I would say in our next view, we definitely need to show the bottom, like this front, or the face where the metal doodads come in. So maybe we could do, what if we did like a kind of dramatic, where like it's sitting on the horizon line. I know some of you really like that because it's a little bit easier. Maybe kind of like, that's tough. Something like that. My butt would be like there, and our vents would be there, and then our, ooh, that's ugly. And then maybe like that. And then our doodads. Nope. Yes. Something like that. Those are going to go off the page. Okay. So, you can kind of see how in let's jump to, we've got like some, oops, perspective like this, and then like that. So we've got our horizon, or a vanishing point way over there, and then way over there on this one. But then with this one, we've got a vanishing point over, way over there, and then way over there. So I think this composition is not too bad. I think if I were to modify this, I think I would definitely like this maybe to be, So right now I'm thinking about where that chord is going to go for the first sketch. Actually, for both of them, where are either of those going to go? Or maybe you just leave it without it, and you just have like part of it, just to show where it goes, and then you draw the whole thing on the other one. That's not quite so bad. This guy might actually deserve to be a little bit bigger, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so there's one example. I don't particularly love that composition, but it's alright. So let's try another. What else could we do? We could okay, how could we play with some? Okay. What if we did we got our button over here, our events go over there, and we've got our thingamajigs here, and I think these guys would want to come out almost like that. They have really, really big, chunky doodads. Ooh, that's actually kind of bad, you guys. That's better. Okay. This is just a thumbnail sketch though, so that's okay. Oh yeah, okay. I'm already liking this composition a little bit better. I think this guy could go off the page a bit, because what's really important is our like object, right? Not necessarily the little like metal beater things or mixer things, whatever they're called. Okay. So we've got a lot of the bottom face where the metal things come in. So now we really want to emphasize the top, right? So what if we did almost like, and our button would be there, and then our vents would be there. Maybe we've got and then, nope, that's not right. That's better. And that guy just barely slips off the page. And then maybe this just kind of goes like that. And maybe you could just use some whoosh, 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 to kind of show that it exists. Oh, but no, you know what? You know what would actually be nice? Is if this was just a little bit bigger. Slipped more off the page. And then this just the chord disappeared behind our other perspective. That's nice. That's kind of fun. And we could have drop shadow, because I didn't do that on the others. Maybe this drop shadow would be a little farther away, because we know that those beaters stick out, right? So we need to create space for them. Cool. Okay. So then for this one, we have a vanishing lines that go like this. So we've got one like way over there, and then one way over there. For this one, looking at something kind of like, not like that. Oh, you know what? I think I actually messed that up. Should that have been like that? Yeah, I think it actually was. Oops. That feels better. Yeah, something like that. Cool. Okay. So, there are some examples of a hand mixer compositions in a landscape view. And then, of course, let's throw in some, like, here's a call out. Here's a call out. Some great space right here for a call out. Got some nice room up here, and then definitely some room there. Maybe we could even put one in here. That's a lot of white space in there. Yeah. And then maybe you want to give it a nice big hand mixer title. I don't really love that spot for that. More like centered. Sure. That's not bad. That one I may have used too much space. I didn't anticipate the title. My bad. Okay. Let's try moving on to... Am I still recording? Oh boy. Okay. Let's do a portrait one. Vertical. Okay. So, let's think for a second. I think it'd be nice to do like a pretty big one. here. Maybe handles kind of like that. The button is here. My events are there. Turning line and where the thing comes out. And I think my doodads would be somewhere about there. Okay. And then maybe this can fly off the page that way. I'm gonna move. I think I would actually like that if it was just a little further down. And those could kind of come off the page a bit. Okay. So once again, now I know that I've got a lot of the top view from this way and some of the side. So now I need the bottom a lot. So I think I really like this idea of like a dramatic where it sits on the horizon line like that. So I think I'm gonna go for that again, but slightly behind. I'm gonna play with that overlap like we had talked about. So maybe this, come up, back around. Here's the handle cutout. My button would be right there. Vents are somewhere up there. And then my doodads are actually probably gonna follow my other horizon line. Oh yeah, see, that's like so fun and dramatic. That's gonna be like really big. Oh, okay, yeah, see, this feels really good. And maybe that cord is like way back there or something. Maybe it's not back there. Maybe it doesn't exist. Yeah, this feels really good. There's nice overlap. This feels really dramatic. There's nice space for like title up here. Hand of Mixel 3000. If you guys want to get your products silly names, that's totally cool. There's lots of room over here. Call out. Call out. Maybe a little one here. And then a nice solid one there. Oh yeah, that feels, that I would consider this a really, really good composition. You guys are probably like, shut the fuck up, patting yourself on the back. Sorry, I will shut up. So, if you guys want to know where these perspective lines are going, kind of got some stuff going on there, like that. So we've got one that's way over there, and then one that's way over there. And then this one just uses vertical, pretty much. And over here, we've got one way over there. And then, just like the direction of these, way over there. And it's starting to look really messy. Sorry about that, but these are just, again, this is just some examples of like how you could lay out some of these things. So let's do one more, even though I feel really good about how that last one turned out, and would be very, very proud of you guys to do something kind of like that. Hopefully you guys agree that that's a nice composition. But if not, it's also kind of subjective. So keep that in mind too. Okay, let's do like a really intense, like side view where we're seeing a lot of like going through this thing. We're almost seeing like the perfect side view. Like that. And then these things, we almost will like barely see that back one because it's so far behind it. And then our cord will maybe come out like that. That's not so bad. Okay, so now we've seen really like just this like side view So we don't know what the top and the bottom really look like at all. So how could we emphasize the top and the bottom? Maybe something these are our events, kind of like that. And then our doodads would be something like that. And then maybe your title name, and Maxwell 3000. Could be something like that. Some callouts. Yeah, that feels pretty good too, actually. Okay. So don't be afraid to play with a portrait, a vertical composition. I think it just worked out this time for me. So where are our vanishing points here? It's actually kind of tough. So I put them like almost on top of it, to be perfectly honest. Almost like a 1 point perspective. We haven't talked about that. Shoot. That might be actually a little bit tough. But what you could do is something like, excuse me, sorry. Maybe just a little bit more like that. So then your vanishing points or your vanishing lines could be more like so. For that one anyways. And then up here, obviously we have some going that way, and then some going that way. And our vertical lines are just like that. Okay, so this is how I personally would go about planning some compositions. Don't be afraid to do even lower fidelity, where like maybe you're just using rectangular prisms or whatever. Hopefully this helps you guys in seeing how you can improve the way that you present your designs in the future. And I think this is pretty much the end. Expect another video on Wednesday, unless you guys have a bunch of feedback or critique for us that you don't like the YouTube videos and would rather try something else. So, have a great beginning of your week. Stay healthy. Stay kind.